Well, I think we will end up knowing. I think there's a lot of military intelligence satellites that are focused right now on the Ukrainian airspace, on the battle space, and we can identify oftentimes where missiles originate. So I think we will end up knowing. There will also be technical analysis of the missiles. We can identify whether Ukrainian air defense was fired and then went astray. But I think no matter what, Russia is going to be responsible, right? Russia is firing cruise missiles into Ukrainian territory, and if Ukrainian air defense did go askew, as the Russians are alleging, which I don't think is quite believable in many respects, but if it did, then at the very least, it is Russia responsible because they're the ones attacking a foreign country and firing missiles at a sovereign state. And I think what we've seen from a lot of countries is recognition that something really serious has happened, that 2 Polish citizens appear to have been killed, and that they are going to wait for more facts. I think the one thing that we have to recognize in this situation is that NATO and Poland should take their time to investigate, to determine who's the culprit, to determine where this missile was fired, whether it's from Ukrainian territory, Russian territory, or Belarusian territory. It is all going to potentially matter, and then figure out the correct response. I don't necessarily think this will just immediately lead to a trigger of Article 5 at NATO in war with Russia. I think there's many other steps that the NATO alliance can take to hit back or punish Russia for what would be a real violation of Polish sovereignty. Well, so Article 5 would indicate that NATO, as an alliance as a whole, has universally agreed, and this would be all member countries, all 30 member states, that another state has attacked another member. And there is a step below Article 5, Article 4, where I think that's likely where we may see Poland, initiate, which would indicate that Poland feels that it is threatened. And this is definitely the case. If a missile has strayed into Polish territory, if it was not deliberate, then it's hard to describe that as an attack because it wasn't intentional, but Polish sovereignty would still be threatened. 2 Polish citizens have been killed. My expectation is that this doesn't necessarily, I doubt this will trigger Article 5 and that NATO will uniformly agree to sort of go ahead to launch an attack against Russia. I don't think that will happen. I don't think this is going to precipitate World War III. I do think this will lead to more support for Ukraine and increased willingness to perhaps provide Ukraine with certain weaponry that the West has not yet provided, and to further increase support for Ukraine in this conflict. And it may also lead to Belarus being put on notice, or perhaps retaliatory strikes against Belarus if Russian forces did indeed fire missiles from Belarusian territory that landed on NATO territory. So I think we will have a sense, once we know where this missile has been fired from, what missile has caused this damage, I think have a pretty good indication of what actually happened here. And I think that, what I would put very slim odds at is that this was sort of a deliberate provocation by the Russians during the G20. I don't think they want to target NATO territory. If they were going to think about doing that, I think they would have very early on in this crisis. I do think that they're hitting Ukrainian targets during the G20 to send a message. But I think this is what everyone has feared for a long time, that inaccurate Russian missiles fired close to NATO territory could spur an incident like this.